Hello, hello, greetings to you. Welcome back to this longer form content that I'm investing more time and energy into um, because I believe this is where true change happens, is with time, presence, and patience. Um, I just made a whole video about um, the online world and how it affects us nowadays in our lives. And then right after recording it, it inspired me to make a video about relational dynamics. Because I think and believe whatever we're seeing with the rising of the online world and the acceleration of these spaces is directly linked to how we relate in general in our lives. And everything is relational, everything will always be. Whatever relation we have to ourselves, our inner world, will translate to the outer world. And yes, I think my observation recently, as I've de-invested my energy from social media platforms, deactivated most of my accounts ever since the beginning of May, and really, really diving into the concept of how we relate to things from a sense of um, going towards something or going away from something. And I've really been reflecting, digesting, integrating what it is to be in relation to social media as a whole world, as a whole realm. And, I'm pretty certain so many people have made content on these topics, as it is probably arguably like the number one topic right now is the internet, is AI, is how we relate on a digital format. And it got me thinking that actually these spaces that are called social media are not social at all. And second of all, it is not a consensual nor a dual relationship. So let me explain. I believe that every relation is dynamic, is dual, has actually is multifaceted, is diverse, and goes all of the ways. With these platforms, with these places, I do not believe we have a say in the relationship. Therefore, it is a one-way relationship. So let me explain. Yes, we do agree to terms and conditions. We do agree to contracts. We do agree to all these things. And there are, regulations with it. However, the way it is controlling and the way it has a say in our lives is actually non consensual. And I've been really reflecting on relationships as a whole, but most of the basis of relationships is about safety and trust. And most people actually don't ask themselves if they feel safe or trust social media as they would in a relationship with a human, or as they would in a relationship with a space they visit, or yeah, with animals they are with. Like, oh, do I feel good in the presence of X, Y, and Z? We don't ask ourselves these questions within the digital realm and within the world online, because we just were silently and sneakily convinced that this was the future. So we must be a part of the future. We must be a part of the greater plan for humanity. We must be a part of the greater what's coming for us, because this is the promise of a better future. This is the promise of, in a lot of people's and companies' words, this is where it's all going to happen. So, within the creation of these spaces, within the creation of this relational contract that we've been having with these spaces, I wonder if we ask ourselves the questions, how is this consuming my energy? And you know how we say, like, oh, if you hang out with a friend and then you come back home and you feel exhausted and you feel drained and you feel not good and you feel, or you feel really good, you feel nourished, you feel joyful. Like, notice how you feel when you're in relation to something. Well, I would suggest that we ask ourselves the same questions with the online world and social media and how we relate to these spaces and how our worth is actually intrinsically linked to these spaces. And why? So, why is my worth linked to these spaces? What do I get when I put myself out there and when I relate on these platforms? These are all great questions to ask because I think, and that's just my personal belief and opinion, that by doing that, we're de-investing from where in the world we can actually be truly worthy and in our power and in our sovereignty, which is actually inside of ourselves. And all of this is not inside of ourselves. It's always been just an endless game of mirrors, I like to call it, which I explain in my other video, which I will probably post um, after this one, I believe. Yeah. And so it's really been on my mind, this outsourcing of power and this also endless game of projections. Like, so many of these images are catered, performed, planned, structured, like all of these things are that happen online normally are so, first of all, predictable and pushed by the algorithm, which we have no control on. So this relationship that we have is at the stakes of so many little details that we do not control, that it's actually just an endless game of predictability and also a game of betting on what you're going to receive. Whereas you get way more choice if you take that back and decide what you want to do with your day, for example. Um, so my point with this is I think we've entered a relationship that we did not know the terms of. We did not get prepared for that relationship, and we did not sit down and discuss the boundaries, the expectations, the desires, and all of the communication that happens when you're in a relation to something. We don't have a communication with social media. We have a communication with the people we know or don't know through social media. But we don't have a communication with the platform as a whole because it is not alive. It is not a human. It is not inhabiting consciousness, which some would probably disagree with me, which some probably would um, say that this point is not relevant because it has consciousness. But however, can you actually bargain with it like you would with some AI platform? Not really. You don't have a say in it. And so my point with this is that through these things we access other small world subcultures, people we know, but as a whole, it's like if it was this big box, and inside this big box we have a few other boxes, but it's infinite. It's just opening one more, opening one more, opening one more. How is that a consensual, ethical, caring, nourishing relationship, or whatever type of relationship you're looking to have in your life? Because everything is relational, I believe in that way it's non reciprocal. I believe in that way that the only reciprocal relationships we can have are with things that are alive and that give us life back. So, for example, everything that we see in the world, mostly, maybe not in modern days, but was always made from and with materials of the earth. Nowadays, it might be different, but Before, everything was organic, everything was coming from alive things. And so, this is why I'm arguing that whatever is not alive cannot be reciprocal because the energy is not flowing through it. So, I know a lot of people could go and say this is very much alive and I'm going to post on this so you're going to see this and you're perceiving my aliveness through this. However, I do not think we're in a right relationship with it to become in a place of healthy relating because a lot of us were already not healthily relating in our daily lives before all of this appeared. So, where can we come from a place of healthily relating to these things? Just food for thought. So, yeah, what's your relation to to the places online, and how do you use them, and how do you enter in relationships to them? I would love to know. Okay, talk to you soon.